At this point, I'd like to go back to the overview and also invite somebody from our audience who is well acquainted with both of your products. He's the CEO of a company called Pitch Kitchen based out of New York City. Greg Rosner, would you mind just raising your hand? I think you've dialed in under my name, but we spoke briefly. You've also spoken with Nadjya in Budapest not that long ago. Let's see if we can bring him in on the call here.
Sure. Hello, testing 1, 2. Okay.
Hey.
Hey, what's going on? Chris and Nadjya, nice to meet you, Dave. Good to see you, Nadjya. Great conversation you guys are having. Thanks for inviting me in.
You're welcome, Greg. You're on the front lines. You're talking to people who are changing their message every single day. And as Nadjya and I were talking earlier, realize how difficult that can be, especially if you're stuck in kind of an outdated methodology or an outdated message. What are you seeing is helping people to convert from kind of a one-way monologue, data ambush into more of a two-way, let them drive, open-ended conversation?
Yeah, no, it's actually starting with the problem. So Dave, for you, for example, like if you just talk to people, say, Dave, what does your company do? You can go on and I'm sure some of your sales reps, not your A players, are saying, oh, it's this fantastic solution that goes on your website and chats with prospective customers, and it's seamless, it's awesome. But most customers, they hear that kind of stuff and they're like, huh? What? I don't really give a shit about that. So the best way to look at your story, and we talk a lot about story here and messaging, is to start with the problem. So most customers, most people go to websites and they have no idea how to buy or how to start a conversation or how, and most businesses are losing a ton of business because they're losing that power of now interaction. And then you move right into what drift is, for example, to solve that problem. It's like the Grinch who stole Christmas. I mean, who cares about, a story where it was just like Whoville with this awesome little village with, what was that little girl's name in Whoville? In the Grinch. Yeah, Linda, right. So the fact is, if it was just a story about that little awesome child in Whoville, nobody cares. But all of a sudden, people love the story of the Grinch because it starts with the problem.
Absolutely. Jeremy, drive us into the change stories topic. I think it's important that we understand that the B2B stories are about change. And that they're about real problems and real people. A lot of times the people in our stories are just titles. They're just the head of sales or head of marketing. Greg, how do you really cast a light and humanize the people in some of the stories that you're developing?
Yeah, so you say, it's not hard because we're all humans. So I'm not sure about what you mean by humanize.
Like a case study typically is really oriented around a solution and some success. Yeah. But the people in the case study could be John and Jane Doe. Like there's no real character there in the story. And yet we know, Nadjya, from looking at storytelling and the mental images that we build in our minds, that we have to identify with real people. Right. That's difficult.
For you. All right. So thousands of years ago, and even today, we're all wired for great stories. And every story has a hero. Okay. But most businesses get this wrong, because they place their solution as the hero of the story. And I'm sure a couple of your sales reps do this, Dave, too. It's just a natural thing. We want to be heroes of our jobs, of our businesses, and we place ourselves as the hero of the story, but we're not. Our customers are the hero because they're the characters in the story that need to change the most from what they're doing today to what they'd like to do. They're the ones that have a goal and a vision of what they want to accomplish. So it's very simple. The mindset is to create a story where your customers are the hero and you are helping them as a guide, as Obi-Wan, as in Harry Potter, the old guy with what's his name? Right, him.
The wizard.
The wizard. Dumbledore, yeah. So you are Dumbledore, you're Yoda. That's your job, is to help the hero accomplish their goals.
Okay, I'm going to jump in, Greg. I want to run this by Dave real quick. Dave, you're doing this. You're on calls every day. What is hard about being the guide? What is difficult for you to embrace that role?
I don't know. I don't think it's that difficult. I think you just have to frame. I think we're just caught in this mindset of like, great, you took my call. Let me tell you, like that's how everybody starts, right? Where I think the simple change to starting those calls is, look, everybody's really damn busy today, and people don't even want to get on the phone. So why did you take 30 minutes out of your day to get a sales demo from me? Like if I was a rep, that's how I would start every call, because I don't ever get on calls. And I know most other people don't ever. I hate when someone, hey, do you have 5 minutes to hop on a call? No, definitely not. And so, and especially no one's proactively seeking out a sales demo, because by the old definition, I'm going to be sold to. And then if I don't end up buying them, they're going to follow up with me forever. And so I think it's just like, just the power has changed. And so I would, before I even said anything, I would say, well, what do you want to hear? Now, that's different than, I think if it's a website or if it's a piece of content that I don't control, like how somebody got there. And so I think it's important to start with a story. And there's a really simple framework that Steve Jobs used that I just steal for everything that I do now, which is, this is how I write every deck, every landing page, every blog post. It's tell a story, then pose a problem, then state the solution, show examples, and then have a call to action. I think it's so important to start with the story, because I agree with the problem part. But if you don't start with a story, then that's just like a stranger coming up on the street and be like, you have a problem? Let me tell you why. A story is the hook that's going to get you to listen to me. So I think that's important in the context. But in the context of a sales call, like we bought a new product and I got an onboarding call the other day, and the CSM, the customer success person, just clearly had a script and was going to walk me through that script no matter what I said. And I said, look, I'm already very familiar with this thing. Can you just show me how this thing works? Right. And so that's how we now coach our reps to start a lot of the demos, which is like, there's a lot I could tell you. What do you actually want to talk about? And if they say, I kind of just want the overview, then it's like, great, here's why Drift exists. Here's the problem. But if they say, look, I listen to your podcast. I'm a super fan. I went to your event, but I just want to know, will I be able to track this if I integrate with Salesforce? Because then the rep just basically narrowed down what would have gotten all over the place to that one very specific thing.
Absolutely. Nadjya, swing this up to you. What is an open-ended question at the beginning of a call or a meeting do for our attention?
Right away that says you're sort of respecting the investment they've made with their time. They have a set of questions they want to ask. You start with them first. You help them drive. You help get them to the points and then the answers they need quickly. So if we're going back to brevity, getting to them as fast as possible, getting them the content they want as fast as possible, and tying it to something meaningful. A story. I think the story, I agree, is super important, because that's how you're connecting on that emotional level. I think, let's not forget, people buy because they believe it's going to do something for them. We're not just pitching just on the pain alone. It's the story. It's how it all comes together for them. So
absolutely. I buy for the people as much as for the product. I have to trust the people that I'm working with to deploy the solution. Jeremy, let's go back to overview. Then we'll take this home with this engagement model that I think will be helpful for our audience and maybe for our panelists as well. It's the last topic. We've got about 5 minutes. Is everybody good on time? So I'm a new rep. I just came to work at Drift, but I don't know where the stories are, Dave. How do I start to find them? How do you start to create a culture of storytelling inside your organization?
This is the greatest mystery on earth, is how do you help sales reps find stuff that they need? Because do we have a case study on X? Yes, I just gave you 10 of them. It's always going to be an issue. We're giving every sales rep a physical binder just to get rid of all that. And so for us, we think, look, I think sales reps are also, as marketers, we drown them in information. Use this, use this, use this. What do you mean you don't know where that is? So I don't blame them. And so we just try to keep it simple and have a couple case studies for each different use case, and then one really clean centralized deck that's, here's our story. But actually what we're starting to do is surface this back up to the website and say, it's kind of silly to have like content that the reps like demo with that's a deck, but then it's not publicly available on the website. Like, we think that our website should be the best salesperson and have all the content there. And so we're focusing on creating basically, and you'll see this, our best reps actually just demo off of the Drift website, which is great because that means our website is serving two purposes. Number one, it's a sales deck. Number two, it's our website.
Fantastic. I love that. Greg, let me swing this back to you. How do we create aha moments that are memorable inside our stories?
So I think the people believe the things that they themselves decide, not the things that you tell them. So you could tell things to people till you're blue in the face, but they won't believe you. So then getting back to what Dave was saying, asking really good questions and maybe using your website as your sales deck for a lot of it is great because it's very now, power of now, it's very conversational. But I think the question, I think my biggest, my favorite question is, what is most important to you about this? And that question usually cuts through pretty much everything.
Absolutely. These aha moments are transferable. They're like currency. We walk down the hall and we share them with our colleagues. Nadjya, what if it's a very technical product? What if there is a lot of complex data? How do we associate a data moment with an aha moment?
So a couple of different ways. When we think about the structure, if it's data, if you're representing the information about a complex product, maybe there's really visual ways that you can represent what that product is going to do for you. There's data storytelling that kind of goes with the overarching arc of what that story is. I'm trying to think of other things around that. If it's we have customers that basically took complex, almost a catalog of their product and put that in a Prezi. Now, the interesting thing was for their salespeople, they had to navigate easily from an attachment that did this to a combine that did that. So you have to have all the different paths sort of easily accessible so they don't get stuck in sort of a serial fashion, forced march, if you will, by the rep themselves. We think a lot in terms of speed to aha, because the more visual examples you can use. But I'm going to add one more dimension to this, which you didn't mention, but I do think is an important thing. There's a lot of self-navigation that happens, whether you embed something on your website or whether and when you share a presentation, we think of it all as a full life cycle. So we want to know what happens 10 minutes after you left the room. So even when you send it, what did people do? Where did they spend time? How did they sort of consume the information? It helps you because you know not only what's important, but you can improve that presentation time and time again. Like if most of your prospects never get past a certain point, either the navigation's not great, or maybe that topic isn't as important and you need to really focus on another. So I think you got to think of things as like informing at every point in the way to kind of continue to improve what you do. So I just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. Jeremy, let's go back to overview and then we'll bring this home. I think we all know that we live in a hyperlinked market and that things are not linear. And that the more that we can embrace our buyer and the questions that they have and start to answer those questions as opposed to giving them our forced pitch, then we're going to be able to engage and create a more dynamic discovery. We're going to just kind of go from bottom to top here. Greg, what are some final points and how can we find you online? What's one key takeaway that you'd like to share with our audience?
So I love what Dave said earlier, is this power of now. I mean, now, this is what people want when they want it. And if you start your presentation or start your conversation with your interest, what's most important to you is what is most important to your audience. That's what's most important. Not that you got to get through your presentation or you got to pitch them slide 12 or whatever your buying process, your selling process is not as important as the interest of your customer.
100%. Start where they want to start. How can we find you online, Greg?
So pitchkitchen.com. It's our agency. We're based in New York. And guess what? It's snowing in New York today.
It's coming. It's on its way. It's on its way here.
Dave, what's a key takeaway you want our audience to recall? How can we find you online?
Well, I want them to know that. That's it. No, a key. I want them to know how to follow me online. I'm at Dave Gerhardt everywhere. Key takeaway for me is just think about how you buy, and take your marketing hat off and be like regular person who goes home at night and does whatever, right? Like, and think about and just start to observe how you buy and interact, and then think about what are the things that happen in your sales process that you wouldn't do if you were a consumer, and how can you adapt to be more like that?
100%. If you're a seller, go buy software. Once you start buying, you'll start to feel what it's like to be a buyer. Dave, I can't thank you enough for joining. You share a lot of just depth and wisdom, seeking wisdom. I look forward to following you on the podcast and a lot more. Nadjya, help us to articulate next steps for PowerPoint constrained community inside a marketing organization that wants to really spread their wings and be much more dynamic in their discovery, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I would say there's 500 million stories trapped in PowerPoint. We have to let them free. So in terms of it, I think that we have to be respectful of the audience. You know, attention spans are evolving. People are inundated with content and tech that doesn't really engage them. And with their time being more valuable, and things that stick have to be personal, customized, and meaningful. So be really mindful of what your audience wants. And if you want to follow me, I'm Nadjya on Twitter, or Nadjya Ghausi at Prezi.com. And also I have a monthly article on entrepreneur.com and try to give some helpful tips every month as well.
We are all part of a storytelling category. One of the places that category is starting to bloom is inside the community at salesstack.io. And we're going to repurpose this content. We're going to send it out to our community of 1,500 B2B marketing and sales leaders and start to make story a central part of the conversation. I can't thank you all enough for joining with us here today. This content will continue to grow. It will continue to amplify your message, continue to lead the way. All three of you, thank you so very much. My name is Chris Ortolando, salesstack.io, at salesnerdo on Twitter. Have a lovely rest of your afternoon and evening, everybody, and talk to you online soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.